Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I'm going to be talking about is it possible to get multiple PhDs? So if you don't know me, I'm Dr. Dave Maslach, and I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. So, is it possible to get multiple PhDs? And the answer is absolutely. Lots of people, not a lot, but there is a handful of people that I personally know that have tried to get multiple PhDs or do have multiple PhDs. And there is generally two. When I talk about multiple PhDs, well, they do one in one area, then they do one in another area. And there are generally two reasons why they do this. And it's not the same thing as kind of doing like a dual PhD where you're doing it at the exact same time, but it's actually doing one PhD and then doing another PhD after that. So there's two reasons I think that people do this. The first reason is they're upgrading from another country, right? So they did their PhD in another country that is maybe doesn't have the same sort of reputation, or they do it from an institution that maybe doesn't have the same sort of reputation that coming from maybe it's a Western country, for example, might have, or, institution, a North American institution or a, European institution. But this does happen. And it's kind of like an unfortunate sort of thing that happens, is sometimes depending on which country you're from, they have sort of different standards, right? And it's just like in med school or something like that, or dentistry, that there's different standards. It's not really implicit, or it's not really explicit in terms of the standards that you need to get, but it is implicit that when you go to get a job based on a PhD from certain institutions that nobody recognizes, it's just going to be really hard to get a PhD. So what people will end up doing is they'll do a PhD in X country, and then they'll come over, they'll realize, yeah, it's really hard to get a job unless I'm at X country. But then they'll realize, oh, if I do a PhD in Y country, in another place over here that has, greater sort of whatever it is, right? Like it just is, it's viewed a little bit more, has more credibility in sort of the academic eyes, right, of everybody looking at that. Then they'll go to that institution, they'll do their PhD, get it done, and then they'll go get a job, and it'll be much more easier. So generally, the second PhD, if it is in the same area, it goes a lot faster and it gets done very, very quick because you know what you're doing and you're not making all the same mistakes all over again. I've seen that done multiple times, and people have become very successful with that. That they just, they go in, and often once you do a PhD, so here's the cool thing: if you do a PhD in one country, and there's people at that institution where you're applying to for a PhD program that they know what is that's a good school at that country, then they'll bring you on board, and it'll be a really good school that you go to, so you can upgrade your skill set pretty quickly and go to a much better school and do that. And usually you can get it done, and it'd be a condensed PhD at that moment because you already know what you're doing, you're well on your way, and you can get it done very quickly. And then the other sort of way or other reason why people will do a multiple PhD is they're going from different areas. So they realize once they've been studying in this one area, they're like, you know what, I really need to upgrade and go into this particular area. So for example, maybe you are doing maybe you've kind of navigated, you're doing some research and you've navigated into looking at data sets and things like that. And then you're like, you know what, I just don't have the statistical tools to understand what I'm doing. I'm going to go do a PhD in stats, in statistics. And so you go do that, you build it up. I've seen lots of people do this, and I've seen people do this kind of informally as well, as they'll do a PhD and they're like, you know what, I'm just not good enough in this area. And they'll go and read, and they'll take a bunch of courses in more of a technical area, for example. And I've seen lots of people do this, and their career has like accelerated tremendously when they've done this. And they become sort of world famous because they've done this, and what they're doing. And then when they do that, they use these sort of really rigorous tools, and then they apply it to another area. And because they're doing these cross-boundary stuff, then they become world renowned, right? Because people are like, well, how do you do that? How do you have that knowledge? Well, it's because I sat there for three years and understood this and took all these courses and all this kind of stuff and brushed up on all this kind of heavy duty equipment, these skills, and I'm applying it. Now I look like a superstar, right? So lots of people do that, and it's actually a really good trick to sort of level up and to do a good job. It's hard to do. This is the reason why most people don't do multiple PhDs. It's just darn hard to do. And once you've done your first one, you don't want to do it again. It's kind of stinks. And you just kind of have to be happy with your life if you're wanting to do that, because you're going to have to live like a PhD student that much more longer. That's why people get out and they want to get out. I mean, you're living off of below the poverty line, right? And as well as you don't have any status and things like that in academia. So it's just not, people just want to get out and they want to get on with their life. And that's fine, right? Like that's totally cool. And that's why most people don't do this sort of multiple PhD route, but some people do, and then they level up and then they actually do extremely well by doing that. My direct supervisor in my master's program did that, and they did extremely well. Now they're doing, this person is doing very, very well in academia and is kind of a superstar at this moment. And same with one of my mentors, did the exact same thing and kind of did it informally and leveled up and did, and they're doing extraordinary, right, in sort of the academic world. So that's really what you should think about, right, with multiple PhDs. Is it's all about sort of leveling up and leveling up your school skills. People do that. It's extremely uncommon, but people do that. And when they do that, most people, not everyone, most people do get a tremendous amount of benefit from that, particularly if you choose wisely into the PhD that you're doing, right? The second PhD that you're doing and you're leveling up. So that's all I wanted to talk about. Hopefully this was satisfying for you. If it was, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and do subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, take care. Bye.